This is part 2 of Gettysburg because my phone died. So we're
The
starting
llamas.
with
Why did they die?
George Pickett. And Justin's going to talk about him. Ooh! Now.
Are you ready?
No.
You're ready.
Now we're ready.
So, it's day 3.
You already done all the dates.
July 3rd, 1863.
So this was right before Independence Day. That's so appropriate.
Maybe.
Continue.
So, Robbie Lee's like, I got this plan. Look, alright? I'm
And
gonna
his boy Pickett is there.
Pickett, Longstreet, everybody. So he's like, look, Pickett, Longstreet, Jeb Stuart, they're all there. He's like, look, folks, I'm gonna do what the Union is not expecting. I'm gonna attack the dead center of their line with everything we got. And all the other generals are like, oh, I'm not sure about this idea, boss.
Except for Pickett.
Huh?
Pickett
No,
was
they
into
were
it.
all like, alright, fine. We're not sure about this idea, but if you want to do it, we're just going to risk it all on this attack. And so, the next morning, firstly, they had this giant artillery barrage that was designed to weaken the defenses of the Union at the center. Whether it was successful or not is something that's left up to the historians, but after the several hours of artillery attacks against the Union troops in the middle of the line, the soldiers are ready to advance, the Confederate soldiers. And George Pickett, who was in charge of the attack, he's an orator by profession. Maybe not by profession, but he was an orator to be sure. And he went before some of the Virginia troops, before the fight, and he said, look, I don't want you to do this for the Confederacy. I don't want you to do this which will put your lives at risk for something that is bigger than yourselves. I don't want you to do it for the Confederacy. I don't want you to do it for Robert E. Lee. I don't want you to even do it for me, or for your wives, or your daughters, or your family, or whoever. What he told them was that I want you to march across this field of fire. Artillery, bullets, anything you can imagine.
Cannons.
But cannons. He was like, you are going to do this for old Virginia. For your state. That's all that matters. That's all that matters. And so the troops were so fired up after that, they were like, we'll do anything for old Virginia. Anything. They are just marching out across that field toward the Union soldiers with so much motivation, drive, to just win the war at this moment. Yet, the plan of battle was just too much. Too much for these Virginia and other Confederate soldiers to endure. And the Union troops and their artillery and the Gatling guns and all
What's a Gatling
everything
gun?
else. It's like sort of a machine gun. It's like you just like crank it and it just keeps firing. Anyway, it was just too much, and despite the valiant efforts of the Virginia troops and others, and they're just marching towards the Union lines, and it was just ultimately was just destined for failure from the beginning.
It was Pickett's last stand.
Maybe, yeah.
Pickett's Charge.
Pickett's Charge is what it was called. Even though it was like Longstreet's division, no big deal. We don't want to get confused by the semantics, but the broader point is that it was just an impossible mission for the soldiers to fulfill. They retreated back despite losing, huge percentages of their force to injury or to being killed or etc. And then they realized that this was kind of our last big shot.
So this is when the South lost the war.
This is basically the high watermark of the Confederacy.
What does that mean?
That's what you say, like the high watermark, like it was like the sort of peak of their success. Though I would argue that the high watermark was probably on the second day of the battle, not on Pickett's Charge. But again, I'm not a historian. I'm no like Newt Gingrich here, being able to be like some kind of expert historian. All I'm saying is that this was not necessarily the most ideal battle plan for the Confederacy in this. So they ended up retreating. They just couldn't win. They just couldn't succeed in their attack. And so Robert E. Lee was like, "You guys, this is all my fault. But we'll keep on fighting, see what we can do to like win the war." Yet they all had retreated back across, south down to Pennsylvania and Maryland and back into Virginia. And there was a lot of disagreement among the Lincoln administration about how General Meade handled the kind of aftermath of the battle. They thought he should have aggressively pursued the Confederates as they were retreating, but he was.
Where was Ulysses S. Grant during this battle?
Ulysses S. Grant is still at this point. It's out in the West. He's still winning battles there, and so.
In the West?
After
how far west?
Not that far west. I don't know, Tennessee or whatever.
Oh.
It's after this battle, though, Abe Lincoln is yo, we need somebody else who will be more vigilant in pursuing the Confederates to win the war. And so they were okay, well, General Meade seems better. I mean, no, I'm sorry. What did I say? I meant General Grant seems like the better option. So when Stanley saw General Grant, he just boom, 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 boom. Just
and then how long was it before the war ended?
It was still 2.5 years because it took a while to it took so many Union and Confederate lives yet before the war was able to be ended. It was just a really sad state of affairs, despite the fact that it was basically impossible for the Confederates to win the war after the Battle of Gettysburg. But General Grant continued to press on with his approach, and just wore the Confederacy down to the point where they didn't have enough men and resources to really compete in the war, which ultimately, brought to a close and ended this sad era of, slavery and so forth in our country. But, something we're still dealing with, the repercussions even today. So, I guess the Battle of Gettysburg was something that still affects each of our lives today, whether we even recognize it every day. So, I guess that's all. And that's all I gotta say.